All right, so looking at some of today's data, just to give you a quick rundown on it, go a little more in depth. One of the reasons we did a lot more mechanical work, one of the reasons we did a lot more pitch development work was because you were right at your average, basically. So down a little bit in strength, but nothing that's out of the norm. That's actually pretty general with where you're at. So we would like to see that obviously kick back up in future outings, future sessions, different things like that. But because we were right at our average, we're able to get a little more of that pitch development in, a little more of the biomechanical work today as well. So with that, we're going to go into that pitch development data. So what we're seeing is you're right in kind of that 80 to 85 range. So that's great. That's where we want to be in that bullpen, especially since you have another outing coming up in a game. You have 2 days, right? So we don't want to be maxing out in the bullpen, which I don't think we did. I want to say we're probably around that like 70-ish% effort from what it looked like. So we were in a good spot going into that. The slider and the curveball here, one thing I want to point out is we will obviously push those more towards being that curveball. So we do throw a good firm breaking ball for your level, which is nice. Most kids in your age are going to have that breaking ball kind of in that 65-ish range, right over there, 65, maybe low 70s. So we want to keep that velo up into that mid-70s range on there. Keep adding velo while increasing the movement, which we'll see. On the changeup, this one here, that was from a throwback from the catcher, so we're just going to ignore that one. Now we would like to see a little bit more speed off of that, but it's in a good spot. With the way that it's moving, I'm not too worried about it. But with that, the big thing I want to focus on, again, this was that throwback from the catcher. We don't need to worry about that one. Is everything was right in that kind of 215 range off the fastball, right? Now we had a couple of them that got outside of that range, and when we were getting outside that range, that's going to throw off our tunnel. So you had some of them kind of in that 245, 230 to 245 range is where some of those were. But what we want to be doing is staying in that 215 range. That's where we're going to have the consistency. So we're going to keep pushing that arm slot to have more consistency between all your pitch types. And what that means is as everything's coming out, every pitch you throw is going to look the same and then branch off of that on that tunnel. So that's going to come with a little more consistency in that back leg, a little more angle on those front shoulders, and consistency between pitch types. But that was the biomechanical aspects we added in today, so it makes sense. We're going to have a little bit of variation. We're learning something new. That's just how it works. So then we're going to get into the movement aspect. And we'd already talked, that slider that we have here and your fastball was basically profiling about the exact same on the movement. And the reason is just that grip. So we're working on that finger placement on the fastball to try to start adding a little more run and ride, right? So we want to try to drive that thing towards that top quadrant. In reality, we're probably going to be able to move it to right over into into that range is going to be where we want to move that. Kind of in that roughly, we'll say 12-ish inches of vertical and ideally 16 to 18 on the horizontal break. That's kind of what we want to start moving it towards. Changeup was good. We want to, again, like I said, once we get a little bit more time, get towards the end of the season, we're going to start trying to drive that down a little bit. Like I said, we're going to be angling the spin axis of that. And then we had a couple really good curveballs, and it's going to sometimes profile as a slider because you do throw harder and things going to automatically pick these up. But we want to keep driving that further down towards that quadrant while maintaining velocity as best we can. So if we can get that, into the negative 12-inch consistently onto that vertical break, we're going to add a ton of depth to that thing, which is going to be awesome. So we want to keep moving that more and more depth to it. But overall, you made a ton of progress on there. Like I said, I shot you a text earlier. We've seen on the changeup about 5 inches of improved movement on the horizontal side. So we're adding that glove side or arm side movement. On the curveball, we've seen about 8.5 inches of improved movement and depth on there. So we're making good progress, but we don't want to be complacent with that. We want to keep getting it better. So overall, everything is going in the right direction. Let me go down here again. Like we're seeing the spin direction in the arm slot. We want to get those a little more dialed in so we're not creating cut on that ball, because right now that ball's got a little more cut to it. We want to create more of that kind of running fastball two seam and get that arm slot and spin direction to line up. But again, that's going to be that grip we went over. We're going to keep hammering that out. And then what we're going to see is that spin efficiency will keep driving up And our next stop, let's get into that 70 to 80% efficiency, and then ideally we're going to be in that 95 to 100% before the end of the season. Slider, overall we're going to kind of just not worry about that. What I want to pay attention to is getting it to be more of that curveball. So we do want to keep moving that spin instead of being at 8 o'clock on that spin direction that we're seeing there. What we'd like to do is be able to move that more towards about 7:15, maybe into that 6:45 range. That's going to be our goal. By adding that a little bit better spin direction to it, we're going to get a little more depth, a little more sweep, and that's going to profile really well off that fastball. Change up again, we were pretty consistent, keeping it right in that 2:45 to roughly 3 o'clock range. We do want to try to move that, that's way too far down there. We do want to move that kind of towards that 3:15 range is kind of going to be that goal, and that's going to give us a little more depth and arm side run on everything. That's going to play well off the fastball also. So overall, everything's moving in the right direction. Again, from the biomechanical standpoint, we are working on kind of how you're using that back leg. We are working on how you are working the shoulders to give a little more consistency on hip and shoulder separation, kinematic sequence, and everything that comes with it. But as a whole, that was a pretty good workout you had today. I thought we got a lot done. And again, the more you can pay attention to that ArmCare data, the more you're going to be able to keep building on top of those things. So the better the arm data looks, the better we can push development. If there's a fatigue day, then we back off. So keep firing it away, keep hammering it out, keep me posted.